Howdy, guys. Welcome back to the Left of Str8 Show Interviews, the premier podcast that shares the stories of our amazing LGBTQ community and, of course, fantastic straight allies, all from entertainment, foodies, books, music, and advocacy. I'm your host, as always, Scott Fullerton, and let's start talking. All right, friends. Today on the show, I have a real treat for all you horror enthusiasts and Halloween fanatics. Our guest is none other than Senor Scary Jerry, the mastermind behind the ultimate horror hub, seniorscary.com. He's here to celebrate spooky season on Left of Str8 Podcasts. Jerry's made it his mission to celebrate all things spooky, from horror films to haunted houses, to how to make them just right with the perfect accoutrements and food and treats and everything else in between. His website's a treasure trove of terror, perfect for those who crave a good scare any time of year, but especially when the Halloween season's upon us. Whether you're into classic horror films, terrifying urban legends, or simply the thrill of a haunted experience, Senor Scary Jerry is your go-to guide for all things frightful. Let's dive into what makes the world of horror tick for this man of mystery and mayhem. But first, take a look. There. Well, Senor Scary, how the heck are you, sir?
I'm doing fabulous, thank you.
I am doing well myself. I'm enjoying having you on. It is spooky season, and you are the master, Mr. Jerry.
I mean, those are your words, but I will gladly accept them.
You deserve all of them, and I think it's going to be a good season had by all. And this is going to kick us off well. I've had a couple of spooky season guests so far, but you really go for it, my friend. I think this website is amazing. You've been compiling things since when? 2009 or something?
Well, it's sort of. It actually started a long time ago, before the internet became a thing, back in like 1990 something. As a newsletter, and it like evolved from this newsletter into this other newsletter, into a blog, into a website, into the monster that it is now. Who would know that I've been doing this for so long? I certainly didn't.
I love that. Back in the old chat room days where you had the little green flashing thing on the computer, right?
Yes, I think it was AOL, like, the login with the sound from hell. And
Oh, yes. Oh, my goodness. You've got mail. All right. I love it.
Triggers.
Exactly. Well, I'd like to ask two questions to all the virgins on the show. I promise not to sacrifice you later. Tell me a little bit about where you grew up and what kind of a kid were you?
Well, I grew up in Southwest Texas, and I often tell people I was born in on the desert of Texas, on a cactus and discovered really early that life was full of pricks.
Nice.
that was that was my life because it was very conservative, very Catholic, and it was, Texas. So
Yes.
it was a very isolating, very very, I don't know. I guess it toughened me up, I think, and it made me the person that I am today. So I think that's super. And yeah,
He's doing pretty good. You toughened him up right. You were there, my friend. I like it. And then second question I like to ask, you're out and proud part of our LGBTQ community. When did you start kind of coming out to yourself, and where do you feel you started to find an LGBTQ tribe?
once I left my hometown and moved to Austin, Texas to go to college, I felt like I was away from family and finally coming onto my own and saying, "Hey, there's gay people everywhere, and there's gay movies, and look at this theater showing this gay movie that I've never seen that." So I think that's where I started to recognize that, hey, there's nothing wrong with me, this is perfectly fine. And I started finding other people who saw the same thing, and I was in majoring in theater, so of course I was surrounded by a lot of, gay and queer people, and it was such a wonderful time living there in Austin, which is it's a jewel of Texas, if you ask me.
I've heard such great things about it. I know a lot of people have either moved there or gone to visit, and it's supposed to be just one of the few gay meccas that are Texas. So that's a
Yeah,
great place to visit, from what I'm told.
it is
Very
delightful.
Very, very cool. And when did you first start getting this passion for all things spooky? Did it happen early on in your teen or college years? When did you kind of feel this love of all things horror started to begin?
Well, at 7 years of age, my mom let me watch The Exorcist on TV. It was the national, like, syndicated version, so it removed a lot of the worst elements. But I think that was the very first horror movie I ever saw. And
Wow.
my brothers, I had three brothers, and I have three brothers, and they liked this magazine called Fangoria, which is a horror magazine. So from a very young age, I was really exposed to horror in all its elements and reading about it and reading about how they made all the prosthetics. And so it started way back, this love for horror and Halloween. And there was really, really much to do in my Southwest Texas town. So we went to the movies all the time.
Nice. And I love that mom kind of supported that and let you kind of get that little horror on. I love that. That's fantastic.
It's a Latino thing. Because, if they scare you enough, you will go straight to church.
That's a good way to kind of get around there. I like that. Yeah, Fangoria Awards I think are coming up in the next couple weekends. My good friend Michael Verratti is directing it this year, and his boyfriend Brendan is one of the producing partners on it. So yeah, that's a big deal. Fangoria is still going strong.
It really is. It had its renaissance and its second volume, as they call it. It is fantastic.
Nice. Well, and the thing I love is that you do incorporate this Latino Latinx culture into your entire vibe here. Talk about making sure that that was part of this and part of your identity. And how has that been to create that kind of atmosphere and that lane? And how as accepting has everyone been right from the start, hopefully?
Well, it's actually very interesting because I was the first person to hate me, because I decided when I first started doing Halloween that I would kind of steer clear of being gay and Latino. So I had the brand that I started with was myscaryhalloween.com, and it was scary, but it did not reveal anything about who I was. I had a crisis of conscience, and I think as gay people we all have identity crisis for most of our lives,
Right.
and mine decided to say no more. I'm sick of this. I want to be identified as who I am, which is a Latino, a Mexicano, and a proud gay man. And I thought, you know what? Screw this. I'm going to be myself. And if they don't like it, they can leave. And some people left, and I'm like, great, the trash took itself out. But it's been pleasant and wonderful ever since then because I'm connecting with a lot of other people whose voices are also been kind of dampened. It's, the internet is not really friendly to people of color, and
Right.
they don't participate in a lot of things on the internet. So here I am as this proud gay Mexican saying love horror and Halloween or else.
That is amazing. And how do you kind of keep that community growing and thriving? Is there ways to kind of reach out and create and connect with all these different parts of the community? Or do they
I
come to
mean,
you and just find you?
they a lot of them do find me, and a lot of what I did, well, before Twitter melted down into the heap of trash that it is now.
Right.
I was connecting with a lot of writers, a lot of directors, a lot of up and coming filmmakers, and just having a conversation of like, what is it like to be Latino in this film industry or in this horror industry? And it was a wonderful time. But after Twitter went away, so did a lot of those conversations. So I'm trying to figure out, well, what now? Where do we go from here? Um,
Right.
there hasn't been anything that really has replaced Twitter and having that connection with people of all levels on the industry and beyond. So I don't know, that this is the challenge for now, is like, how do we reach those people? And so part of me like wanting to be on these podcasts and talking and is saying, hey, I'm Latino, I'm Mexican, yo hablo español muy bien, and I want to talk to you about horror. And it's wonderful in Halloween, which we can talk about later, I'm sure, of how locally I'm finding those people.
I love all of that. And yeah, it's been very weird. Like you said, Twitter self imploded, of course, and I've been trying the Facebook groups, but those are a little weird, and those are kind of I'm trying to learn that a little bit.
Yeah.
And Instagram changes everything every 5 seconds, so you never know how to keep up on that one. So
Damn those algorithms.
I'm telling you, they just need to have a roadmap, I think, instead of changing it. I get the U-turn about every 5 seconds there. So it is what it is. But I really like how you've kind of broken down the website. Tell me about the evolution of it, because now you have how to celebrate. You give all these different things, everything from food to how to throw a party to different ideas for movies and for things like this. How has the website developed? Because that's a lot of work, getting all these things and
Yeah.
categorizing and everything. How has it evolved over time?
Well, it started first with just like stuff that I wanted to list to kind of remember, like my favorite movies. When people always ask me, what are some of your favorite horror movies? And I'm like, I have a page for that. Give me just a minute. Because my mind is just not that great. And so little by little, I kind of started using it as an archive of every project I've done for Halloween, every assignment I've done for school. Right now, I'm getting a associate's degree in film studies. So everything that I'm doing, I'm kind of cataloging there, just so to help me in my memory, my poor memory, but also kind of like to share what I'm doing. I think it's really important to have mentorship within the community, and
Mm.
they show me how to make a Halloween fence, and I show them, the best horror movies of cosmic horror, like just different things like that, that I think it's a nice place to be, because our community, the horror Halloween community, is they're very engaged, and they know when people know their stuff, right? And it's not, I'm not a bot. I'm not, I'm not an algorithm. Like, there's a human being behind this. And now when people ask me, oh, how do you celebrate Halloween? Well, let me tell you, if you go to my section on how to celebrate Halloween, this is what I do. And these are things that I've done to celebrate. And where do you find, these things? I'm like, well, here I have a little list of resources or books, or like, it's every question that I've ever gotten. I've used that to filter the website and its structure, to kind of say, here's who I am. And if you have any questions, here they are presented for you.
And you've got films coming out in 2025. Where do you get all these resources from? And how often do you find yourself updating the site? Is it weekly, monthly, or how do you keep it from being a full time job?
Uh, you know, there's pages on there that are quite dusty. I really should wipe them down. But a lot of the more active parts of the site are like the blog or the movies pages, things that get updated pretty regularly. Project pages, photo pages, those get updated pretty regularly. But once you build it, it's so much easier just to add to it, right? But
Right.
I use the entirety of the internet and all my favorite sites, from Bloody Disgusting to Dread Central to upcominghorrormovies.com, and I will scour the internet for like, what's the next movie, what's the next thing. And as someone who loves film and is studying film, you kind of learn to follow things like studios that you like, directors that you like, and see what they have down the pipeline, right? Because a film is 2 or 3 years out,
Right.
and it's good to kind of see what's coming down, and how trends today will affect movies that'll be coming out 2 years from now.
I love that. And I want to get into the Halloween spirit and decorating your home and everything, because we showed that video in the beginning. But first, I want to talk about going back to the culture. I love the video showed all these different parts of the Latinx culture and how they are part of Halloween. Were you taught that stuff growing up? Was that all research on your part? The naming of all of these ghouls and goblins and witches and skeletons?
Yes, they're a part of Latino culture from when you're very young. When you're very young, they tell you, do not cry. You need to stop crying because La Llorona, the weeping woman, will come and get you if you don't. What is the weeping woman, Mom? Oh, the weeping woman is this ghost, and she killed her children in the river, and she's gonna come for you if you keep crying. I am done crying, right? Like it's
Love
not
that.
only a folk story and a folk tale and something that's passed from generation to generation, but it's also like sound parenting advice. Like, here you go. Every time I go to the grocery store, the Mexican grocery store, there's always some kid having, histrionic uh, meltdown, and the mom always dutifully says, "You better be careful. La Llorona's gonna come get you if you keep going like this." So
Love
it's interesting that even today, that actually just happened last month, believe it or
That's
not.
amazing.
But yeah, and then a lot of it is like, there's so many stories, right? That go back eons, generations, and it's interesting how folklore is connected from culture to culture. So La Llorona is this figure, this ghostly woman, but she appears in so many folklore tales from different cultures and different countries in their unique ways, but have the same through line throughout. So I find that very fascinating.
I love finding those things, the commonalities between everything.
Yeah.
That is great. And then you talk about this community that builds just this haunted experience, this village that you create around your house here. You've invite people to help kind of set up and everything. This is a month-long endeavor for you, and you have people kind of donating to help it, donating time, donating money. You give great thank yous to everyone.
Yeah.
Talk about um, how that's risen and how you've seen more people come out every year that want to be a part of this, because I think that would I used to go just decorate the damn rose floats every year because that was fun. I can't imagine decorating a haunted house every year. That'd be amazing.
Yeah, it's we bought a house in 2009, and we might have chosen this house specifically for its location amongst a bunch of schools, and it's a corner house, and it's not an even corner house. It kind of sticks out in the intersection, so it's really like on this platform. And I'm like, that's the house that I need, because that's the house where I'm gonna build this Halloween thing. And I stormed the neighborhood with Halloween the first year we moved in August, I think it was August 31st. And I immediately started decorating for Halloween. We hadn't even unpacked. And I was like, we're going to decorate for Halloween and start this tradition. And little by little, it grows and grows and grows. And the neighbors all love it. They come, and at first I was like, I wonder how they're going to respond to this. But there's nothing gory. Like, it's just scary and spooky. And so I think that it's still kid appropriate. And the neighborhood loves it. They will come and be like, last was it no 2 years ago, I had a teenager come to my house to trick or treat, and that's not unusual because I think everybody should trick or treat. And she's like, "Hey, do you remember me?" And I'm like, "I do not remember." And she's like, "I've been coming to your house since I was 7 years old. I grew up with this house as the Halloween house. And I love Halloween now. And when I have a house, I'm going to decorate like you did.
How nice that is. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that was probably one of the most amazing things. And like, okay, it is all worth it. All 10 months of the year that I spend doing this is worth it.
Now, do people start coming up to you in like July and it's like, Jerry, what are we going to do this year? Do you have planning parties, or is this all from your imagination, or how does this all come together?
Well, it's I have a theater background, so I have a vision, right? So I tend to work alone a lot, but then we'll need help for a lot of the heavier lifting stuff and the multiples of things like the thousands of tombstones and all. So I get help, to do some of the labor, but my vision is self kind of like put together throughout the months, and it does in August. People will be like, "Oh, are you getting ready for Halloween? Is this happening?" Just yesterday, I was like, all right, it's October 1st, so every day I'm going to put something else out. So October 1st, we don't officially open till October 15th, but
Right.
every day I add some new element. And people are like, "Well, where's Halloween? Where's it all out?" It's not time yet. And you gotta be patient. Like it takes the crew a very long time to get it all up. But yeah.
And you find yourself trying to top yourself every year, of course, just like they do with all the other holidays.
In my younger days, I did, but now I'm like, yeah, I can't do it. One, I'm out of storage. Two, I'm just like, as you get older, and you'll know this when you get my age, but it gets a little harder to do things and move, and your knees don't want to do what the rest of you want to do. And like I used to do a lot of roof climbing and very tall ladder climbing, and now that Home Depot has all these 12-foot monstrosities, it's like you got to go fix something once it's standing at 12 feet, so out comes that 14-foot ladder, and somebody's got to climb that. So everything's a little slower, and so I said, you know what, I need to keep a theme that I can just slowly grow over time. And so that begot the cemetery, which is a ubiquitous Halloween theme, right? But mine
Right.
is a Los Muertos cemetery, the dead cemetery, because what else would you have in a cemetery? But I infuse it with the Mexican folklore, so I think that's what's keeping it fresh. Every year, I have another piece of folklore and another QR code that you can scan and learn more about that specific folklore.
Ooh, I love that. I love
Yep.
that you have that entertainment and the educational element to it. That's amazing.
I
And
yeah,
and I love that
I'm
you
an
called me
educator.
young. I think I've had probably many anniversaries of your current age, but that's okay. I'm like it. I'll take the compliment. So loving that all of a sudden. And I guess you probably had to learn to be handy over the years because these things don't come cheap, right? Have you kind
Mhm.
of learned from your theater background and everything else how to
Mhm.
make everything yourself, or where are you finding all these great pieces that you put out?
Yeah, I usually like buy one piece and make two.
Mm.
And so that has always been kind of like my formula, because I used to build everything from scratch, and now it's more of a, well, what can I build and what can I buy? Obviously, building a 12-foot skeleton would require a huge engineering feat, so I'll leave that to Home Depot. But everything else I can do myself, and it's that theater training that said, okay, I can use foam, wood, and a few screws and make stuff easy and fast, and making sure it's safe, and make sure that it's going to stand the weather and the wind. And it's always a testament to my education in theater, that says how I learned how to do that. I learned how to do the lighting design, and all the electrical and all the building, like all of this. I mean, people say, why did you get a theater degree? It has been the best thing. It learned me. Okay, it didn't learn me. It taught me how to do a lot of wonderful things that I don't think a lot of other people might know. Like I don't see accounting majors knowing how to put together a fence. Like it's a fun skill to have.
I bet that is so amazing. Now let's talk about the intersectionality. I've been talking about it all spooky season long with my guests. Horror and the LGBT community have such a symbiotic relationship, kind of a lot of the queer coding that's been through the years and LGBTQ representation. Talk about that part of it. Do you find a lot of people coming to that intersection? Do you find a good mix on the website? Do you have tell me about the LGBTQ representation you come across doing this every year?
Absolutely. From the very young age, in my hometown of Texas, um, as LGBTQ, I was othered, right? I was somebody who stood aside. And people who love horror are also the same way. They're othered. What, you like horror? Ugh, like stand over there. Like, we're gonna go see Fast and the Furious. You go see your little 80s horror flick, you weirdo, right? And so all the weirdos kind of stuck together. And I noticed over time that people who loved horror sometimes were also LGBTQ, and they kind of understood the whole othering and how we might be pushed to the sides of society, but together we make our own clan. And I find that all throughout Instagram, throughout all the different social media platforms, the more people that I talk to, the more queerness I see, and the more LGBTQ representation I see. And it's interesting. I was reading an article just last week that said that people who love horror tend to have much higher empathy than people who don't like horror, because apparently as someone who loves horror, we can put ourselves in the worlds of these, the final girls or the final boys, and um, feel empathy for them to want to succeed, to get to the end. And we I find that very, very common, especially when I was doing Twitter, and there was queer Twitter. Oof, say that 4 times. Um, it was a huge population, and I loved it. I loved being in that.
Nice.
I did a lot of work with. I did a few pieces with Gaily Dreadful, who I absolutely love. A very
Wow.
strong queer voice in the queer horror community. Of course, the horror queers from the podcast on Bloody Disgusting, um, and we were all like, we would talk, and we weren't friends, of course, because the internet makes you think that you're friends when you're not. But I knew them well, and I felt like we connected on some level, even if it wasn't personal. Like, we connected through a shared interest, which is
Right.
a really good connection.
I love that. Yeah, I think it really does help bring people together and find that, like I said, find those tribes and intersectionality between them all. Now, have you become kind of the local celebrity every October? Do you get a lot of press coming around? Have you had any celebrities pop by or anyone slide into your DMs or give you a comment on the webpage?
Um, no, I am no celebrity, and I'm very. I mean, the neighborhood is very, very responsive. And people always say, "Why aren't you inviting the news? Why aren't you?" I'm like, we have enough people on Halloween night that I don't know that I can handle anymore, right? And it takes a staff of like at least 10 or 15 people to handle all the trick-or-treaters that descend, and the families, right? Because it's not just the trick-or-treaters, it's their families. We
Right.
have, 2, 3,000, 4,000 people on our lawn in a span of 2 or 3 hours. I can only imagine if I got any more recognition, what that would do to that. So I'm okay. I'm okay being a nice little small guppy in a little pond and saying, I enjoy what I do, and I'm fine with that. Thank you.
I love that. Makes sense though. That does create quite a bit. Then you do have to start topping yourself. You feel like it or something. And yeah,
Yeah.
I understand that completely. Now, do you, as someone who kind of dabbles in all things horror and kind of documents everything, is there anything that actually frightens you or leaves you unsettled?
Oof. Yes. So many things. Not ghosts, although I do believe ghosts exist, but not ghosts. Um, I was mentioning this earlier, that things that are seriously out of our control, because we're like this blue marble floating in space, and
Right.
we haven't found any worlds that we can go to. And as the temperatures change, and as the big Atlantic shelf melts and falls into our ocean, and like the whole like the horror of the infinite space is really scary to me. Every time they say there's a comet swooshing by, there's actually a comet swooshing by later this month, that is not going to hit us. Oh, okay, why do you have to add it's not going to hit us? Like, was there a possibility of that? Like, what does that mean?
Why are you bringing that up to me in the first place if it's not going to hit us? I
Right?
don't need to know,
Oh,
right?
when they say it's going to go between our satellites and Earth, I'm like, our satellites are not very far from Earth. I don't know. Space in general kind of scares me. There's a lot of things about space. Like the more I read and do these deep dives into space, I'm like, that's probably why I love cosmic horror movies, because that thought of like of something that massive and huge and having no control over it is scary.
Now, being in this realm for so long, does it tend to calm you and let you just chill with it? Like it ramps me up. If I see something like that, how do you unwind? Horror movies don't make me unwind. They ramp me up. Have you been doing this long enough where it's kind of just a baseline for you? Or how do you relax when you need to relax?
It's funny you ask, because I watch a horror movie. When I watch horror movies, I feel like I get it all out. The screaming, the terror, the watching, the anxiety, it all like exhausts itself and it comes out. And then I'm like, okay, time for bed. Whew, that was that was a workout. And it's actually been clinically proven. A lot of psychiatrists are now prescribing horror movie watching, like specific horror movies, for people who have specific kind of like issues, so that they can like work on their issues in an active way. And it's incredible. One of the instructors in our college that I work at, she hates horror movies, and she's like, come up with a list of 10 horror movies that's gonna help me with my anxiety. I'm like, okay, that is great. And so it took me a while, but I came up with this list of 10 movies, and she watched them in sequence, and she said that by the last one she like felt less anxious.
Wow, that's kind of amazing.
And I'm like, okay, well, my little study is nothing, but it actually does work. And so I think that's how I unwind. Like when on a Friday after a long week, I come home and I turn on that horror movie and I escape and I shriek and I, cry, and then it's time for bed.
I love that. Dr. Scary Jerry's Guide to Contemplative Realness through horror therapy. I like that.
Exactly.
Very good. We could write an ebook. Very fun. We got to start wrapping it up, my friend. Talk to me about what, as this goes down, does it kind of keep you high all year round thinking about this? You kind of feel let down for November, December? Are you able to celebrate all the other holidays equally? Talk about just kind of living year to year.
I mean, I have a 10-month cycle. It starts in January and it ends in October. And then I get 2 months off to not think about anything Halloween. it's a pretty amazing time. People think I'm going to be depressed after the holidays, but I am not. I'm exhausted after 10 months, and I'm good to like put it away. Not worry about how I'm going to get that skeleton to start moving again because the boner's broken. Like, it's a constant struggle through October. So when November gets here, it's like, yes, I'm going to like sit back, chill, enjoy an actual autumn. Wait for Thanksgiving, which I love Thanksgiving, and then love Christmas, and then it all starts again after the ball drops in New Year's.
Nice. Well, talk to me about your hubby, your partner. I mean, did he know what he was getting into coming into it? Is he part of this celebration all year long? Is he like, you do you, boo, and I'll do Thanksgiving, Christmas, or how does that work?
He's very supportive, and he gives me the space that I need to create my vision by myself, right? Which is great. Like he's very supportive and very helpful by not doing a thing, and that's great. Like that's what I really need. And he did not know what he was getting into. I don't think he knew that we would be to this scale. I didn't know that I'd be to this scale. But he encourages it. I'm like, should I buy the 12-foot skeleton or the 12-foot witch? He's like, buy them both. So he's very supportive of everything that I do. And he understands that this is how I do theater now, since I don't do theater much now anymore. So it is an artistic expression, right? It's not just a hoarding problem. It might be a hoarding problem. I don't know. But
It's your vision.
It's my vision. But it's how I express myself as an artist now. And he's amazing. We've been together for 24 years, almost 25.
Congratulations. That's amazing.
It's quite a feat. We were married in a haunted house. He agreed to that. So every time we go on vacation, we do some sort of like ghost tour or something. We're planning a Midwest vacation next week. And he's like, we can go to this haunted place and this haunted place and this. I'm like, yes. So he's very encouraging. But I wouldn't say that he's like super into it, but he's super into me, and I think that's even better.
That's the best, my friend. That sounds amazing. Where in the Midwest you coming? You coming near Ohio? You guys got to visit.
We're going to Bloomington, Indiana. We're looking at the college there.
Okay. I go to Indiana on occasion. My mom's from Richmond area there in the southeast portion, I guess, of the state. So yeah. Very, very cool. Well, Senor Scary Jerry, thank you very much for gracing your presence here on the Left of Str8 Show podcast. You gave us a lot of great info to celebrate this spooky season, and your website has even more, my friend. Let everyone know where they can find this website and where they can follow you online.
You can find me at senorscary.com, and online, all my social handles are the same, at Senor Scary Jerry.
Fantastic. Stay on the line from your friend, guys. We're going to have a special 5 questions with the Senor Scary here coming next week. Be sure to look for that. We appreciate you tuning in every week here to Left of Str8 Show podcast. We hope that you're enjoying your spooky season, and we will see you next time. Bye.
Thanks for listening to The Left of Str8 Show. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast distributor, and please give us a 5-star rating so more listeners can find us. You can follow us on social media, and be sure to check out our website for contests and other news and information. See you next week.